Welcome to the deep dive. We really try to get under the surface of fascinating topics here, give you those insights that make you feel, genuinely well informed. Today, we're plunging into a film that, well, it's more than just watched, it's kind of felt, remembered for this unsettling power, but also its perfect craftsmanship. We're talking about the 1974 neo-noir masterpiece, Chinatown. Now, for anyone maybe not familiar, neo-noir sort of takes that classic cynical detective world of the 40s, that shadowy vibe, but injects it with something darker, maybe more nihilistic, really captured that 70s disillusionment. Our mission today really is to unpack why. Why is this film, 50 years on, still hailed as one of the absolute greats? We're going to look at its historical roots, those iconic performances, the visionaries behind the camera, and its huge impact. And this deep dive is drawing heavily from a pretty detailed film appreciation by a veteran movie writer. So lots of good stuff to get into.
Okay, so let's paint the picture. We're in 1930s Los Angeles, and we meet Jake Gittes. He's a private investigator. He takes on what looks like a pretty straightforward adultery case. Hired by this mysterious woman claiming to be Evelyn Mulwray, wants him to spy on her husband, who happens to be the city's water commissioner. But what starts as just routine work, it pulls Gittes really fast into this incredibly tangled web, deceit, power plays. It goes right to the top. And ultimately, it starts to expose the kind of ugly truth behind how Los Angeles was actually built, how it got its water.
And here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't just some made-up detective story, is it? There's like a real foundation to it.
Exactly. That's the genius of it, really. What elevates Chinatown beyond just a good detective movie is how deeply it's rooted in actual history. The script pulls directly from the California water wars. This was back in the early 1900s. Real stuff. Powerful businessmen, pretty ruthless guys, manipulating water rights, basically stealing water to make fortunes off land development. So it's not just background color, it's like the DNA of the story. It makes all the fictional corruption feel shockingly real because, variations of it were real. It gives the whole thing this immense weight, this authenticity.
Okay, let's talk about the characters because they are just unforgettable.
Yeah.
Starting with Jack Nicholson as Jake Gittes. You called him the perfect anti-hero. What makes him so compelling?
Well, Nicholson's performance, it's kind of transformative, isn't it?
Yeah.
He doesn't just play the tough guy cliche. Gittes is, he's surprisingly vulnerable, reactive even. We watch him learn, or maybe more accurately, we watch him fail to learn fast enough. He gets more and more desperate as things unravel. He's got this cocky attitude at the start, sure, but that dissolves into genuine fear. You see it in that famous scene where his nose gets slashed.
Oh yeah, the knife scene. Brutal. And the fact that Nicholson actually wore that bandage for weeks, it just adds this layer of raw, uncomfortable reality to it. And what's really key, I think, is Gittes doesn't solve the case through some brilliant flash of insight. He stumbles, he makes mistakes, he gets played. And we, the audience, we're kind of discovering the awful truth right alongside him. It makes his journey, his failures feel deeply human. And then Faye Dunaway as Evelyn Mulwray. Wow, so much mystery, so much tragedy wrapped up in her character. That must have been a difficult role.
Oh, incredibly challenging. Dunaway had to carry this enormous, terrible secret for the whole film, but she also had to keep our sympathy. And she does it brilliantly. She projects this surface calm, this elegance, but underneath you always feel this immense weight, this barely contained pain, and it all just explodes in that devastating scene, the "she's my sister, my daughter" line.
Chilling, absolutely chilling.
It could have been so melodramatic, right? But she delivers it with such raw, shattering conviction. You believe it instantly. It's heartbreaking. Plus, she has that classic Hollywood glamour, but always with this dangerous edge, this hint of the darkness beneath the surface of that whole world.
And opposite them, John Huston is Noah Cross. Just the face of evil, really. What makes him so unsettling?
He's terrifying because he doesn't seem evil at first glance. Not at all. Huston plays him as this reasonable, almost grandfatherly figure.
Yeah.
Soft-spoken,
Oh, right. He seems almost avuncular.
Exactly. And it's this slow burn, this dawning horror, as you gradually piece together the sheer scale of his corruption, his cruelty. And that line he has. You see, Mr. Gittes, most people never have to face the fact that at the right time and right place, they're capable of anything.
Should be chill.
Delivered so casually. And casting Huston himself, a giant of old Hollywood directing, was kind of perfect symbolically, wasn't it? Representing that entrenched, powerful old guard, the kind of men who literally built L.A. through questionable means and held onto power.
So we've got these incredible performances, but the architects of this whole dark vision were really behind the camera, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. You have Roman Polanski directing, And he brought this unique, deeply pessimistic viewpoint to it. It went way beyond a standard detective flick. His own sort of inherent darkness, maybe amplified by, his personal tragedy and returning to L.A. after Sharon Tate's murder. It just infused the film's whole atmosphere. But his direction is also incredibly restrained. Masterful, really. No flashy tricks. He builds tension through really careful pacing, these long takes that just let scenes breathe, let the dialogue and performances simmer.
Okay.
And crucially, he was the one who insisted on that bleak, tragic ending. Robert Towne, the writer, actually had a more hopeful version planned.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Polanski changed it. And it's interesting, he even has that cameo, right, as the thug with the knife who gets his nose.
Yeah. The guy who says, you know what happens to curious cats?
That's him. It's like he's symbolically inflicting the pain on his own protagonist, mirroring the sort of emotional wringer he puts everyone through.
Yeah. Okay, let's unpack Robert Towne's screenplay then. People often call it one of the greatest ever written. What makes it stand out so much?
Oh, it really is a masterclass. Just perfected craftsmanship. Towne's brilliance was taking that Raymond Chandler-esque noir style, the gritty detective, the cynicism, but applying it to this huge real-world corruption story, the water conspiracy.
Yeah.
And he did tons of research into the actual California water wars. So it's not just a backdrop, it's woven into every detail. The period language, the talk about dams and land deals, it all feels completely authentic because it's based on fact.
Right.
And the structure is just perfect. Every single scene does multiple things at once. It advances the plot, sure, but it also develops character and deepens the central mystery. It's incredibly tight. And that whole water conspiracy, it works as this powerful metaphor, doesn't it? For the corruption at the heart of the American dream, how power operates, how it protects itself, often invisibly.
Absolutely. And beyond the story and the acting, Chinatown just immerses you, doesn't it? It's such a sensory experience. The mood, the music, the look.
Oh, totally. And a huge part of that is Jerry Goldsmith's score, which is legendary partly because he wrote it in just 10 days. The original score got rejected.
Wow, 10 days.
10 days. But its genius isn't just the speed, it's that he understood that sometimes less is definitely more. The score isn't huge and bombastic. It's built around this incredibly sparse, almost mournful sound. There's that solo trumpet elegy played just hauntingly by Owen Racy, then 4 pianos, 4 harps, just 2 percussionists and strings. Very unusual combo. Yeah, it blends bits of Eastern music with jazz. It feels really intimate, melancholic, personal. It pulls you into Gittes' feeling of isolation, his descent, rather than just telling you how to feel. It's powerful because it's used so sparingly, so effectively. No wonder it's ranked, number 9 on the AFI's list of top scores.
Yeah, it's incredible. And the visuals, that recreation of 1930s LA, it's stunning, but also kind of unsettling.
Absolutely. John Alonzo, the cinematographer working with Richard Silbert, the production designer, they created this unbelievably authentic 1930s Los Angeles. But the brilliant thing is how they use that bright California sunshine. It's not warm and hopeful. It feels harsh, relentless. It almost feels like it's exposing all the rot and corruption hiding right out in the open.
Yeah, there's nowhere to hide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the color palette is very controlled. Lots of browns, yellows, muted greens. It gives everything this dusty, faded, almost decayed feeling. And Alonzo does this amazing thing with frames within frames. He constantly shoots characters through doorways, windows, reflected in mirrors.
And you notice that.
Yeah, it visually reinforces this idea that they're trapped, ensnared by the system, by the city itself. Especially Gittes, you feel him getting boxed in. And that feeling just gets intensified in the final scene in actual Chinatown, with those claustrophobic, narrow streets.
You know, the world of Chinatown feels so lived in, so complete. And a lot of that has to be down to the supporting cast, too. They really fill out that whole picture of LA society.
Oh, absolutely. You've got fantastic actors, even in smaller roles. Perry Lopez as Lieutenant Escobar, he represents the sort of limits of the official law in this world. Or John Hillerman as Russ Yelburton, that nervous water department guy. He perfectly suggests this whole network of complicity, people looking the other way. And Daryl Zwirling as Hollis Mulwray, the water commissioner Gittes, is initially hired to follow. His integrity basically makes him a target. He's the honest man who gets crushed. Even brief appearances, they add these layers, painting this portrait of a really morally complex, corrupt society where it's hard to find anyone who isn't compromised somehow.
And there was some real movie magic happening behind the scenes too, wasn't there, in terms of how it actually got made?
Yeah, definitely. It was produced by Robert Evans at Paramount, and this was right in the middle of that 1970s golden age for Hollywood filmmaking.
The new Hollywood era.
Exactly. That time when directors like Polanski, writers like Towne, they had incredible artistic freedom. The studios let them make these really personal, often quite dark, complex films without tons of interference.
A different time.
A different time, for sure. And, you could easily think they built massive sets for this, but no. It was shot almost entirely on location in LA using actual buildings and areas from the 1930s that were amazingly still around.
That adds so much.
It adds huge authenticity. And Richard Silbert's production design and Thea Silbert's costumes, the level of detail was just painstaking. Every prop, every car, every suit feels absolutely right for the period. It just transports you.
So, thinking about its legacy, its lasting impact, it really landed at a specific moment in American history, didn't it?
It really, really did. It came out right slap bang in the middle of the Watergate scandal. So its themes of, government corruption, powerful people abusing their positions, hidden conspiracies, it resonated incredibly deeply with audiences at that exact moment. It felt like it was confirming what people were suspecting about how power really worked. It was also seen as like a high point of that American New Wave cinema we mentioned, that era of challenging, morally ambiguous storytelling and its influence. Huge. You can see its fingerprints all over later neo-noir films, stuff like LA Confidential, Miller's Crossing.
Yeah.
They owe a massive debt to Chinatown. It basically set the template.
And we have to talk about that ending again. It's just infamous. So powerful, so bleak, it really stays with you.
Oh, definitely. The whole climax, set in LA's actual Chinatown district.
Yeah.
Just one of those potent endings in movie history. It brings all those themes, unchecked power, systemic corruption, the impossibility of justice crashing down, and that final line. Forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown. Totally iconic. It's become shorthand, hasn't it? For a situation that's just hopelessly corrupt, beyond fixing, where the system itself is the problem and fighting it is futile. It perfectly captures the film's incredibly dark, nihilistic worldview. And it really explains the title's meaning. And like we said, that ending was Polanski's vision. Uncompromisingly tragic, very different from Towne's original idea, which apparently had Noah Cross getting some kind of comeuppance.
Wow. So the film achieves this incredible level of technical excellence across the board, really. Everything just works together seamlessly.
It truly does. You've got Sam Osteen's editing, which is just invisible in the best way, building tension, managing this complex plot, but never flashy. The sound design, too, is so authentic. It immerses you in the 30s, the sound of the cars, the phones, the street noise, even things you might not consciously notice, like the makeup, the props in every scene. It all contributes to this completely believable world. You just sink into it. I think Chinatown endures because, yes, it's technically brilliant, but it's also telling a timeless story about power, greed, and corruption. Just fantastic entertainment, great mystery, fascinating characters, amazing dialogue. It's filmmaking at its absolute finest. A true work of art. So, people call Chinatown a perfect film. It's kind of hard to argue. It works on so many levels. It's a gripping mystery, yeah, but it's also this deep character study. It's a historical drama. It's a really stark meditation on power in America. It's definitely a masterclass for anyone studying film, and just essential viewing for anyone who seriously loves movies. It's one of those films that actually gets richer every time you watch it.
And the recognition was there too. Nominated for 11 Academy Awards, though it famously only won one Best Original Screenplay for Towne, which feels almost criminal given its...
It ran into The Godfather Part 2 that year, I think. Tough competition.
Right. Tough year. But it is preserved in the National Film Registry, which confirms its historical and cultural importance. So maybe a final thought to leave you with as you reflect on Chinatown. Think about how the film uses that bright, sunny, public face of Los Angeles, the sunshine, the famous landmarks, almost as a mask. A mask to hide this deep, pervasive, systemic corruption that's operating just beneath the surface, often in plain sight if you know where to look. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What does that say about power structures? Not just back then in the 30s or the 70s, but maybe in any era, including right now.